Well,
Welcome to Percolating Thoughts. One of these days, we're actually going to have an episode where you can hear both Belle and I say welcome.
it's okay here. Slay.
What?
But they are welcome here, so slay.
Yes, they are welcome. Anybody is welcome, actually. So today is a little bit of a heavy topic. We're going to be talking about mental health. Yeah, 'tis the season. Everybody's getting on with their midterms and, crazy exams and, just that college life. This is where it really gangs up on you. And it's almost spring break. So it's in the home stretch. We got it. But I feel like there's still stuff to be said about mental health, regardless of if it's, college life-esque or personal life-esque. So yeah, Belle.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I agree. Especially for people who've already gone on spring break and now you're like looking at the next like 8 weeks in disgust because now you actually have to like cram, and I think that's why I'm thankful that our spring break is later, because when we come back, like in theory, it's only like a month. We
yeah,
count 5 weeks, if that though. Just depends on what you're taking. But
that's true.
hashtag journalism, hashtag don't have final exams, hashtag slay.
I had someone tell me they were taking like J1000 today, and they were like, yeah, it's only an 8-week course, but I don't know how you do it. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, I have to find sources for a group story. And I said, oh.
No, I've heard about J1000. This is so off topic, but like I've heard like it's really bad. Like
Is
it's
it
actually,
really?
well, if you're not a J student, like I've heard it's really hard. Because it has to do like a lot with like it's actual journalism, whereas like in 11 and 1200, I feel like we were just taking pictures of a rock, but like they like actually have a full group story and stuff.
Okay, so it's
Um,
like 4180, but for non-journalism students, basically.
yeah. Oh, you're back. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, you froze too, but anyway,
Uh, college Wi-Fi. Woo.
yes.
Um,
Regardless of the quality of our cameras, our connections aren't the best.
it's okay. We're learning. It'll get better.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, one day we'll have laugh mics. Um, yeah, so I think like as you start to look at the home stretch, like it gets a little bit harder. Like Lee and I were just talking about this 4,000 class and how in theory, like we technically only have to do so many assignments for it to be a B. And I feel like so many people are getting to that point in the semester where it's like, okay, what can I like get away with?
Yeah.
Um, Lord knows Lee and I will still probably hit the A mark, but at least for now we feel better that
Mm.
if we didn't, like it won't affect us as much. And I just think like especially as you get into semester long classes, you start like I don't know, you start deprioritizing your mental health and start upping your prioritization on these classes. I mean, I've been sick for 2 weeks straight, so I think like a lot of that has stemmed from, oh my God, I have to get this video in. Oh my God, I have to cut this video. Oh my God, I have to get this source. And now I have to do this. Now I have to write this dumb paper about why I care about God knows what. And so yeah. So I think like it's about that time of the year that students stop caring about themselves.
Oh yeah. A big thing for me, this past week, um, has been focusing a little more on self-care. Like I know I have 4 exams, but I, feel like in order for me to actually be able to do good on those exams, I need to actually sit and, kind of focus my mind and figure out what I need mentally, physically, emotionally if I'm going to succeed on those exams. And I feel like that is probably the most important part of when it comes to actually getting work done. Like, a lot of people don't realize how much goes into getting that type of stuff done and in a healthy way as well. But yeah, another thing that Belle and I have talked about here in the past, and I mean pretty recently too, is like the utilization of resources, especially as a college student. There are so many resources that you could use if you need help with, familial issues, or school issues, or whatever it may be. And I mean, I feel like it's very important for us to highlight those in the initial episodes of our podcast, because we can relate to college students as college students, and also to anybody who has suffered any type of trauma, or that type of thing. We all have our own baggage, and I feel like that shouldn't be what separates us. That should be what brings us together. So yeah.
I think that so much of like that stigma around mental health, especially for like students, is people like just don't realize how much life 20-year-olds have lived
Yeah.
or could. And so like I feel like so many times, especially growing up in our generation now, for like I think they're X now, Gen Xers, like, or something like that. I don't know, a new
Millennials.
name. Whoever comes after Gen Z,
Oh yeah.
yes, is that like we didn't really grow up in a mental health forward
No.
age. And by the time it came around, like we were mental health advocates ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so much of that comes because people don't realize how much trauma that friendships, moving, family, parental issues, siblings, whatever it may have.
Yeah.
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 Or just how you grew up.
Yeah.
Can have an effect on your mental state and how you turn out to be come college. And so much of it, especially since, at least for our age group, like we, like I'd say like our age group, and then add 3 years and subtract 3 years, were so affected by COVID. And because of that, a lot of us like came into college and we didn't know about these resources until beginning of sophomore year, maybe it was junior year, that we realized like, oh my god, I could be using these resources, and I haven't for the past 3 years. And
Yeah.
we're like, where have I been? And I think, like, especially in Mizzou, like we do have a counseling center through student health and through student fees. And it's only a semester long, which kind of sucks, and some of it is only spot treating, in my experience. Where, and like by spot treating, I mean you tell them all your shit, and then they're like, well, this one seems like the easiest to digest.
Yeah.
But maybe that's due to, uh, like last week, last podcast, I talked about how I went to therapy for friendships. But sometimes I think maybe that just stems from, that could have stemmed from not having a dad.
Yeah.
That kind of stems from moving when I was 8. That could have stemmed from COVID. Like, and so I think that like therapy is super important, because those are things that I realize now that I learned in therapy that maybe not the therapist didn't necessarily help me with. But at least in like the gray area, when I don't have a therapist, I can, like, you can start recognizing those traits in yourself.
Right. I can agree with that. Like I too, was a participant of the NU Counseling Center, um, for 3 different sessions. And I mean, without getting too much into it, it was a lot of individual, grief and, family counseling as well. Um, I mean, growing up, I was always told, from, 7 to 9, whenever you think or feel things and you're upset about something or whatever, journal it. And cutely enough, that was the source of my love for writing and journalism, in some aspects, I believe. Um, but it also helped me express my feelings, and I was able to communicate them a little bit more. And then when I stopped journaling, I wasn't able to communicate my feelings. I was just holding everything pent up inside, waiting for that whole like boiling pot to boil over. And, you know, I feel like therapy has helped with that aspect a little bit. Um, and I highly encourage, if you can afford therapy and you're going through issues, try to at least go to a session or two, see what fits you best. Because it's such a good outlet. Some people don't want to talk to their parents, they don't want to talk to their siblings, they keep things from their friends because they don't want to shed their burden or whatever. No one should have to feel that way, first of all. But second of all, because we now know that we have these resources and that they are available, I think it's important to utilize them if you see fit or need to. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. My therapist also told me to journal. And I feel like I became a better, not not job wise, a better journalist,
Yeah.
like writing when I stopped therapy. Um, because I feel like when you do it like for therapy, you're just doing it so you can like tell them like, oh, I was depressed on Monday
Yeah.
and this is, but like when you like really thoughtfully journal,
And apply
like
yourself.
yeah, you can really see. And something that I've learned is to write letters,
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
songs. And so like usually if I'm like, I should journal right now, I find a song that makes sense and that's the title of said journal.
Mm-hmm.
And writing to that song. So like say it's a lyric that's like, I'm so sad I could drink a glass of wine. And then maybe like that's what you use in your journal to say like, I feel like I could drink a glass of wine because I went to school today and my teacher decided to call me out for not being in class for 2 weeks. And so, and then like you start saying, why wasn't I in class? Why do I feel like I was singled out? And I think that so much of mental health starts with you asking yourself why,
Yeah.
and then steps. Getting to like therapy is hard because you have to accept that you need it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing to put in the work to find a therapist, to show up, to want to care, and to want to tell people like some random person about your problems that maybe Leah said you haven't told your parents, you didn't tell your siblings.
And I mean, in that way too, you'll have like some sort of devil's advocate or someone who, doesn't know you, who can tell like the deepest parts of yourself too. And I mean, you can feel like you have a connection to that therapist, but I mean, at the same time, it's like someone who's not going to sit there and judge you, at least vocally. um, I guess I shouldn't say that, but they're not going to sit there and they're not going to sit there and judge you, you know, say you smoke some weed or whatever. I mean, weed's legal now, but say you smoke some weed and you tell your therapist's not going to be like, no, you're not supposed to be doing that. They're going to be like, okay, gotcha. So why did you feel like this happened, or what made you this want to happen? And I'm not against weed by any circumstance, but like that's what that's how it would go. Like they would make you like really think about it and explain it, and it's not like they would lecture you or anything, or you know, just discredit your feelings and make them feel invalid and everything. They would actually listen and help you through your thinking process and everything.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that ties into kind of what we were talking about earlier today. Like in college, it gets so taboo because your friends are out partying and you're drinking, and maybe some of them are doing drugs that aren't just weed. And you find yourself turning to them because it's a lot easier to just kind of like shut out your problems than it is to face them head first.
Yeah.
And I there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it's like also realizing that you're doing it and surrounding yourself with people that are willing to be like, hey, you haven't been like you haven't been here mentally in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so much of that goes into, like, I always joke about like, oh, I'm so alone, like, oh, I have no friends, blah blah blah, I live alone. But I think like being a better version of yourself is being alone.
Yeah.
Like, so I think so many people in the past year like have picked up reading again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
They've learned like that's a way to, one, escape, and two, to just be alone. Go hang out in the park, throw
Yeah.
a blanket, read a book.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's accepting that you're gonna go get ice cream by yourself, coffee by yourself. Like, you can't learn to love life if you're not gonna love like the life that you're in.
Yeah.
Um, like love being alone, because there will come a time when we graduate or move, go somewhere new, and we're not surrounded by the same people, kind of like what we talked about last week with high school friends.
Yeah.
And you have to learn how to do it all alone again. um and even if you're like, you do have roommates or you have a significant other, a partner, like you still have to learn to be alone, because it's the only time like you're really going to be happy with yourself. um and I think that gets a little harder when it comes to like men for whatever reason are always with their friends. um and so like I
For
think
whatever
that
reason.
like like it's always like a gaggle of men, but always like it's never just like one lone.
Now, listen, this is all stemming from the amount of times a man has said, why do y'all ladies go to the bathroom together? Shut up. Anyway, this is our version of that.
It's like, but like then it's kind of like, okay, then you create toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And how many men choose not to go to therapy and pick up their anger in really unhealthy, illegal, unethical, shitty fucking ways
Yeah.
on on the people that are around them that they claim that they love, or they make rash decisions that hurt other people, or they unfortunately, trigger warning, unalive themselves.
Yeah.
Like, because men are taught, I can't show my feelings, I can't cry, I can't do this because that's what women are supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so if you're not, yeah, yeah, you can go ahead and know.
Well, I hope everyone who's listening knows or watching knows that this is a safe space. And if you need resources, please feel free to reach out and we will help you the best that we can. And just know that whatever is affecting you in your life at this moment is not forever. And it shouldn't be the end all be all. So with that being said, reach out for help if you really and truly need help. And, you know, if you do need those resources, or if you can't afford those resources, you know, there's always going to be a way. So find someone who you love and who you trust and who supports you, and come up with a plan to figure it out together and really look into getting a healthier lifestyle and doing what's best for you in every circumstance.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing.
I agree. And I think too that something else that should be said is like Leah and I have gone through it all. If God chose his mightiest soldiers, we'd probably fall in the ranks. And we've both lost a lot and gained a lot and still deal with a lot. And I think something that's really important is you can't compare your journey to somebody else's.
Oh my gosh, no.
And I think everybody grows from it differently.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my wake-up call was when I was 15, and one of my elementary school best friends passed away due to mental health. And that was really hard. And I mean, it still is. Like, I still visit his grave all the time. I have a tattoo in honor of him. The other day, I actually brought it over to the computer. Like a few years ago, I had found like the Valentine that he gave me in 3rd grade.
Oh,
and cool. I laminated it. And I think it's always the reminder that there's so much more life for you to live. And it gets hard.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah. And we wouldn't be the people we are today if it wasn't hard. And if things always went our way, then life wouldn't be life.
Or worth it.
And that's why it's super important to reach out and find ways to cope that are healthy, and surround yourself with friends who will listen to you when you need it. And have those hard discussions with your parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very fortunate that when I got to college, I really opened up to my mom and was like, okay, this is real.
Yeah.
And more people are accepting if you start talking about it than if you don't. And that conversation, I've seen her be a kinder, gentler person to other people because of those conversations. And so the more we talk about mental health, the more people will accept it, love it,
support,
and understand that. Yeah, and understand that it needs to be prioritized. And there are resources, and there are answers and solutions, and mental health doesn't always have to be depression and anxiety. And obviously that's usually what they are labeled as, but there's so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And they do to food insecurities and money insecurities, and there are also resources for that. Like at Mizzou, we have Tiger Pantry. A lot of you guys, if you got in state and are independent, you qualify for food stamps, Medicare. And Leah and I talk about this all the time. There's so many resources that are available to college students that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
And so,
and even if you're listening and you're not a college student, please know that there are resources for you too. There are ways, you know, to keep going and to keep being there and living your life and trying to stay sane. So yeah.
And yeah, so I always told my girls in small group, like, you're loved and you're worthy and you're enough to somebody somewhere.
Yeah.
That includes us.
Yeah.
And like Leah said, DMs are always open.
Yeah.
One of us.
Yes, one of us will answer, or both. But please, if you do need that help, don't hesitate to reach out to anyone listening at all. And like I've said numerous times, we just need to be there and support each other, no matter the circumstance. And no problem is too small, honestly.
Like that Horton Hears a Who quote.
What?
The Horton Hears a Who spec, like no person is too small. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Oops. Don't sue me. Okay, so with that being said, I feel like this is a good place to wrap up. So you can catch us with a new episode every other Monday, and please make sure to follow us on all of our socials.
Do it. Subscribe.
Right, cheers. Cheers.